You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
The real hard thing was the producer just said, like, we're going to shoot all of this movie regardless of how many hours a day this takes. We know there's no way we can do this in 12 hours a day. So if these days are 18 hours, 20 hours, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to shoot it. You're going to keep going. And if the crew just wants to walk off set, that's fine. But you and the DP, the cinematographer, are just going to keep going.
Hey everyone, thanks again for hitting that play button. Before I get to the interview with Jeremy Michael Cohen, just really quickly I want to mention, we talk a lot in this episode about crowdfunding. So in the show notes for this episode, I've actually included a lot of very helpful crowdfunding links that, in my opinion, are some of the best on the internet. So if you are a subscriber via Podbean or even through iTunes, please take a look into the show notes. There will be a ton of URLs, and they're all very clearly marked as crowdfunding links. Also, there's the two crowdfunding campaigns I mentioned, which is one of us is Jeremy Michael Cohen's for his movie Yinz, and the other one is for Bill Boyle's crowdfunding campaign to get Raymond Chandler a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So if you're very interested in either one of those campaigns, please just check them out. And, if you're not, I'm sure they would both appreciate just, even a tweet or a mention of some kind. Also, if you're looking for hosting, Bluehost actually gave me an affiliate program. So if you really do need to start your own website, use the code DBPodcast for a free domain name and one unique IP address. And that can be yours again if you just go to dreamhost.com. The code word is DB Podcast. So if you enter that, again, you'll help out the podcast, and you'll also get a free domain name and one unique IP address. For those who are interested, I've also added the podcast to SoundCloud. I'm just trying it out for right now. Mainly, all my downloads can be from iTunes and Podbean, but if you are so interested in SoundCloud, I will link to that in the show notes as well. And one final thing is, in the show notes as well, I have I included the class that I'm actually a teacher's assistant for, which is through the Smithsonian X, which is the Smithsonian online classes. It's a comic book class taught by Michael Ursulin and Stan Lee. I've completed the course before. And now they've sort of added a lot more to it, and they asked me back as a teacher's assistant. So I will, include the link to that in the show notes. But again, if you do sign up for the class, it's free. Or if you want a actual certification, it's about, I think it's like $70, something like that, and that will actually, you'll be able to use that certification on your LinkedIn profile, or you'll be able to print it out. But otherwise, if you don't want that, the whole class is free, so you really can't beat that. So without further ado, let me get into the interview with Jeremy Michael Cohen. We talk a lot about directing, first ADing, and of course crowdfunding. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, episode 68 with Jeremy Michael Cohen.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Everyone, thanks again for hitting that play button. Joining me today for another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast is Jeremy Michael Cohen. Jeremy is a writer, director, and producer of films and other moving images. He has produced and first AD'd millions of dollars of content, including 7 feature films and commercials for major brands, including Hyundai, Reebok, and Scion. His current project is a micro-budget feature film, Yinz, that Jeremy will direct. Yinz will be shot in Western PA, which is about 4 hours away from me, in winter 2015 and 2016. I think the reason Jeremy is filming out there is because here in Philadelphia, we just mugged a robot, so you probably should actually film out here. Jeremy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for that warm welcome. I like that you used the little nifty line I wrote for my website. I've been using that for all kinds of applications and stuff recently, so I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. I try to piece it together best I can, but But it's good to talk to another PA. I know you're going to be filming out in Western PA, but most people film out in Western PA now, right? So
a lot of people do. I was back there in June for 15 days, and it was cool. There's some huge stages and 2 big TV shows, although one's leaving, and I don't know, there's some really good crews out there, so it's good.
Yeah, everyone who was in Philly, crew-wise, pretty much everybody. There's still a few people left that are really, really solid. There's few that still live out here, but most of them have gone to Pittsburgh. I went to a couple years ago. I actually won the Pennsylvania Film Industry Association award for keeping the film tax credit here. I wrote a paper about it. And
cool.
And they paid for my hotel room, and we got to go out there for the Oscars. There was an Oscars party out in Pittsburgh at one of the sound stages, and it was just phenomenal. And we got to meet pretty much everybody. That was in 2010, and it was that's when they were saying like, hey, Pittsburgh, we're going to start building this sound stage. We're doing this and this, and now it's like it's even bigger than when I was out there. 5 years ago. So they're doing a lot out there now.
Yeah, I have to say, people were, these are big union jobs, and people were really receptive to, kind of a tiny film, and people were, I don't know, it was a very warm welcome, and, Cinelease, it's a company I always rent grip and electric gear from in Los Angeles, has an office there. They were insanely receptive. It was good to see kind of the industry happening there, people working. It was great, And the first time, actually, I went down the stages, and I saw everything at 31st Street stages, and I got there, and I kind of heard an AD yell, like, that's lunch, everybody has 30 minutes, and I was just thinking, like, that's, I'm back home, I'm like in almost the entire way across the country, but it's just exactly the same. Like, I feel very at home on set, and it was good just to see people working exactly like we do in LA. There's something nice and comforting about it.
Yeah, and that's very true, and because I think, as more productions go out of LA, although there's a big push right now to get them to come back to LA, but, there's been a lot of other states that have opened up their tax credit incentives, and they've, Georgia was big, Louisiana was big, South Carolina was big, and for a time Pennsylvania was big. They were hoping that Philadelphia was going to be bigger than what it was, but mostly everyone shut out Pittsburgh. Like down the street from me, they built Sun Center Studios, which was at the time the best soundstage in Pennsylvania and one of the best on the East Coast. Unfortunately, a lot of productions haven't come to the area. I actually shot there once, but it's still there. Hopefully some more productions will come to the area, but it's been all Pittsburgh, and I want to talk to you too about your film, obviously, because I know a lot of filmmakers from Pittsburgh now are starting to make their own micro budget films, and it's just good to see people going out there and actually just following their ambitions and actually just shooting something and not waiting for anybody to give them permission, so to speak.
Yeah, it's I line produced a relatively micro budget feature last year in Los Angeles, and money just disappears so fast. I always tell everybody, you have to be prepared for like at least $500 a day for parking, just for parking. If you're making a movie in Los Angeles, there's nothing like that back home. You have to be prepared for, every 2 weeks permits are about at least $700. And there are just tons of places where you can't shoot, or you need cops, and cops are $80 an hour. It's just like, not this is bad. It's a really professional environment, and it's an enormous city of 10 million people. So everything kind of needs kept in order. But it's just hard to make a movie on a budget, whereas people are kind of much more welcoming in smaller places.
Yeah, very true. In Philadelphia, for instance, for micro budget films, cops are free. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And even growing, and I'm right outside of Philadelphia, by the way. So like, there are still people who think filmmaking is cool. So it's so it's not like hey, you want to use my cafe? That'll be $5,000 a day, buddy. None of that stuff yet.
That's exactly it. I'm mostly planning to shoot kind of outside of Pittsburgh, mostly in my hometown of Newcastle and the county, which is Lawrence County. And I stopped by a couple of schools. I went and talked to 2 police departments. I stopped by a couple of locations. People are literally just like, yeah, sure, whatever whatever you need, call us up, let us know. People think and want to be involved in something very, very different from what happens every day back home. So it's nice. I don't want to take advantage of people. But I think, conversely, people will be excited to have their, have something shoot at their locations. And, I'm a professional. I'll be bringing professionals back. We'll do it the right way and not abuse anybody.
Yeah, and you mentioned Newcastle, PA, and we got talking about filming, in Pennsylvania right off the bat. But I wanted to ask you, about your background, because that's what I usually ask everybody. So is Jeremy? I wanted to ask you, how did you get started in filmmaking?
Well, it's I don't know. It's not the most magical story in the world or anything like that. I just grew up. I really liked movies. I spent when I was a little kid, just, every day, a lot of time kind of like alone, or me and my brother, we just watch television. We watch TV for, this is, sadly common, I think, of kids, and like a lot of people don't want to admit it, but I would just watch TV for 8 hours every day or something like that. Come home from school, to the time I went to bed, I would just be watching television. And you start, of course you watch cartoons when you're a little kid, but eventually you start watching more and more movies. And if you're into it, like, you start recognizing the patterns in movies, and eventually your parents take you to the video store and you start renting stuff. And I just got really into movies, and like a lot of people, I was just kind of like a movie dork. When I was in 6th grade, it was just kind of like a lonely time in my life, but Star Wars was re-released, and I remember literally sitting there one of the many times I saw it at the theater and just thinking, like, my God, like, how else could I possibly do anything with my life? Like, I realized I wasn't going to be a professional athlete by that time. So I was like, I damn well better be a movie director. So, I just started reading everything I could about it. And I think I probably got the internet or something like that when I was 7. So it's like I could start, by that time, I could just start reading all these interviews with directors. And I started buying directors' interview books probably like around the same time. And it's all a rabbit hole. You read an interview with one person, then they talk about the films they like, and then you start trying to watch their movies, and you start, by pretty young age, you start realizing, like, oh, there's something special about the Cohen brothers movies, or like a Robert Altman movie, or this John Ford movie you watch on TV or you see with your grandpa. You're like, well, there's just like, when you love movies, you just kind of like figure out, like, oh, this is a good director, and then you just start kind of like dorking out to it. And but I don't know, by the time I was in middle school or high school, I started to tell my friends and parents I wanted to be a movie director, but that was so kind of disconnected from reality in any way. I didn't know how you kind of become a movie director, except for I remember, like, all the way back in 6th grade, George Lucas had gone to film school at USC. Supposedly that was the best film school in the country. So I always knew, okay, I'll go to film school at USC. I was a big idiot in high school. I had gotten really bad grades, so there's no chance of me going into film school at USC or NYU or something like that. I did well in my SATs, happened to get into college at the University of Maryland. So I went there, and I was like, well, this is my shot. If I'm going to be a movie director, I better do well so I can get into USC. So I got good grades, worked really hard, just kept on watching movies, took a couple movie classes, which are mostly a joke, but just like kind of kept my eyes on the prize. And I applied to film school at USC and got in, although I really wish I had been making, short films or sketches or something at college. I just didn't. I was just it's just a normal dude in college partying and having a good time. I studied really hard, but I should have, I wish I made a couple tiny movies at that point.
Yeah, I remember some of the film classes I had in college too. There was a few classes in of itself, out of the course that actually, okay, this is kind of cool. Some of them were a little bit of like a fluff course, in my opinion, and I would end up giving recommendations to the teachers afterwards because like they would ask me. I mean, I wasn't like, excuse me, professor, but they would ask me like because they knew I was doing shorts and stuff while I was in college, and they would I was a big movie head, and I ended up becoming friends with a couple of the professors, and just giving them just talking about different stuff, and but and to go to the other point you made, which was making stuff in college, that is, even the simple stuff that I made in college, I'm glad I did it because I actually did more in college than I do now, which is unbelievably sad to say. So like, there's a few shorts I have up on YouTube that I did in college, and and it's just. Something that I was lucky I'm able to do now, looking back on, because now it's like all I do is work or prepare for a shoot. I mean, because you've been there, Jeremy. You know that some of the projects that you prepare for, you never end up doing anything with because either the budget falls out or everyone couldn't get together on something. I mean, you've been there before. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. 1,000%. I've had like a couple calls through the year. I think there are different ways to like at this point. I'm 30. I need to make something that's good, right? But when you're 19, you can just go and mess around and shoot everything yourself and figure out how to shoot a movie over the course of 2 weeks and then spend 6 months cutting it together. And you just would learn so much from screwing up and from your mistakes. I think like that's the one thing most people don't understand about filmmaking is it's so much of it is craft, and you need to practice and learn, and practice is pretty much screwing up and then learning from those screw ups. So the older you get, the higher the stakes get, the more money is involved, the higher the stakes get. At film school, you kind of feel like from day one, like, whoa, I need to impress everybody or I'm never gonna get my big shot. Of course that's nonsense, and like nobody watches what you make your first year of film school, but there's too much pressure.
Yeah, I meant to ask you too. Is when you were at USC, did you ever meet like Chris Soth or Bill Boyle while you were out there?
No, neither of them. How do you spell Soth, Chris?
Yeah, Chris Soth is Soth, and Bill Boyle is actually my mentor, and I'm pretty sure he was at USC, or maybe it's UCLA. I'm sorry if I got those two mixed up, but I know Chris Soth definitely taught at USC, and he's actually been on the podcast before, Chris.
Oh, cool. No, I actually no. The short answer is I don't know. Don't know him.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask, but just in case. I know USC has a really good film course out there, and I've had a couple of professors on, even from UCLA too, and they have their own way of doing things. But
their film school is awesome too. I mean, I think to some degree, film school is film school, and you're going to meet a whole bunch of people that you can work for like the next 10 or 20 years with. I'm not convinced you necessarily, I'm not sure how much you can learn, and film school surely can't make you into like an original thinker or can't turn you into a genius or something like that. But you meet a network of people. So I having gone through it, I'm AFI or NYU or UCLA, they're all great, and they all suck in their own in similar ways,
Yeah, very true. That's something I always go back and forth here on the podcast, is to see the side of yes, you should go to film school, and the side of no, you don't need to go to film school anymore. So it's always good.
Yeah, in my own life, I go back and forth on that, all the time. I do think that, if you're going to go to film school, this is a really hard thing. Like, I think you should only go to film school if somehow if you can approach it like being a doctor. Like, okay, this is insanely expensive, but this investment is going to pay off over 30 years or something like that. But, if you just kind of have a passing interest in film, or you're like, I want to try working in the film industry, like film school is the last place in the world you should be. I mean, I think there are certain people, like I think about Paul Thomas Anderson. He kind of grew up in the backyard of Hollywood. He grew up with someone who's like tangentially related to the industry. He met people. You can kind of like start working as a PA when you're 18. Like, he has no reason to go to film school. If you're like, if you're a kid from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, like me, it's probably, it's really helpful to meet people. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, very true. Because I think because I'm so close to Philly, it's like, right up the street, but that has helped me meet a lot of people. Like, for instance, somebody I actually met on a film set one time ended up, interning for not Jon Stewart, but the other guy. I can't remember. I think I'm forgetting his name. Stephen Colbert ended up interning for Stephen Colbert, and now she's doing her own thing. I mean, so it's for that's just one instance, and obviously anyone who follows me knows I'm huge on Twitter, because I'm always meeting people on Twitter. That's what I mean by huge. I mean not huge as in I have a big following. I mean just huge as in I like to I use that to connect network with people, and that's what and that has also helped me, and like, for instance, you and I met through Jason Brubaker, who's another filmmaking guy from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, absolutely. Where did he grow up? I saw on his website or something like that. He was from rural Pennsylvania, he said, but I'm not quite sure where. Do you know? Right
outside of I think Harrisburg.
Oh, okay, sure. My dad lived there for a while, so I went there a number of times growing up.
Yeah, I've been there too, and it's I've traveled to Pittsburgh too, just driven across, and it really is, somebody once told me that there's actually there's only real three towns in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg.
I kind of agree. Like, everything else is like its own, like, kind of small town. It's very spaced out. Otherwise, it's interesting in that way. I don't know. I like it. It's not like Jersey, where it's like a series of endless, like, small, well, I don't know, endless suburbs that are all basically the same place, kind of lined up one after another. It's I don't know. All the like little small places kind of have their own identity, but there really are only like three cities. It's true.
Yeah.
And I'm sure by California standards that Harrisburg is tiny.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, and again, it is very charming to go through all these places. Because like up north for me is Lancaster and all those areas, and and they all have some movies have actually filmed in Lancaster too. By the way, there was that movie with John Travolta and Dana Carvey. I think it was called Trapped in Paradise. I actually think it actually filmed in Paradise, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's cool.
So anyways, just getting back to you and your work. How did you end up getting to do first AD work for Reebok and Honda?
Okay, so I was at film school, and at film school, basically everybody on the first day, someone says like, who here wants to be a director? And everybody raised their hand. So you start film school with you go in there are 50 people. Everybody is convinced that they're a genius and they're going to change cinema. And of course, I feel exactly the same way. And I'm one of the dudes raising my hand like, yes, I want to be a director. But so is everybody else. And they're, you're surrounded by smart people, and everybody's, much harder working than the people I had known as undergrad. And everybody is vying to direct several things at film school, and oftentimes people aren't chosen by who's the best director or who's the most original, but literally by like who would be the easiest to work with for the faculty, or who can other kids learn from, or who plays really nicely. Not necessarily things that like make for great directors, but people that somehow make for good like film school, I don't know, experiments, or good film school like lab rats. So everybody kind of has to find something else to do while they're in film school, or you don't end up like working very much. So somewhere along the way, one of my good friends, his name's Chris Caraballo, you might listen to this. He always tells me that he should get 10% of all the money I make from ADing. Said, like, just your personality is well suited for ADing something. Come AD my thesis for me. So I AD'd this short film for him. It's called A History of Spaceflight. It's a lot of fun. And literally, that 2-week project was over. And the next week, people are calling me like, hey, you're a really good AD. Why don't you AD this for me? So, all of a sudden I just had done 10 short films or something like that. And by the time film school was over, I said, okay, I'm not going to work for free anymore. And every week someone was just calling me saying like, why don't you AD this? I have this, webisode episode coming up. We're doing this brand content. And not that far out of film school, somebody called and said, we're making a feature. I heard you're a great AD. Will you AD this for me? So I said yes. And I need to pay my rent. And the easiest thing for me to do at the time was to AD. So I just AD'd everything I could. And you just kind of learn on the job, and I am a good AD. Like I feel like in the non-union world, I'm not a DGA AD because of the amount of days you have to do to work in Los Angeles and stuff like that. They're just, I'm amongst the people, the best and most experienced non-union ADs out there. And I don't want to be a DGA AD. That's like not my long-term career goal, but I still do it, and eventually you just start doing bigger and bigger commercials. And all of a sudden you're working on $500,000 commercials, but they don't feel that much different from a, $10,000 short film.
So is there a preference on your part, Jeremy? Do you prefer to do commercials or film?
Man, last year I did 4 movies, I think, or maybe. Oh man, this year I will say one of the big kind of changes in my life or career. I kind of set out as a goal this year that I wasn't going to AD movies anymore unless it was like an incredible opportunity. So last year I AD'd a film called Band of Robbers, and the movie was awesome. I love the directors, like they're friends for life. Their names are Adam and Aaron Nee. The movie had an incredible cast: Hannibal Buress, Matthew Gray Gubler, Eric Christian Olsen, Melissa Benoist, the new Supergirl, Johnny Pemberton. All kinds of awesome people were in it. And you're just on set with them for a month and a half, and you start to become friends with everybody. That was an incredible opportunity, and the script was really good. So if somebody called and said like, "Hey, read the script. This is incredible. The cast is going to be good, and it's a great situation," I might do it to make more friends and meet new people. But if somebody called me and said, we're shooting the Sci-Fi Channel movie, it's going to be 4 weeks of work, do you want to do it? I would probably just say no. And so overall, that's a long way of saying I think I like doing commercials more at this point, because commercials generally come down to maybe 4 days of total work, and the day rate is generally 2 or 3 times as high, and there's generally more money to go around for all the departments because you're shooting for, let's say, 2 days. So it's just there's something more professional about it. And there's also it's like I'm a surgeon. I just go in there and I separate myself from emotionally from the project. And to some degree, everybody does that, except for maybe the brand itself. You're just there. You're a mercenary. You're hired to do a job, and you do it, and you try your damnedest to stay alive just because it's like you're working out of self-interest. You want the money. You want to stay alive. But that's the way I approach commercials. So yeah, I prefer to do commercials. If one day down the road I'm still making tiny little independent films and I'm a DGA AD doing a couple commercials a year, I think I'd be thrilled with that as well.
So Jeremy, just out of curiosity, what was one of the most challenging days or biggest obstacles that you faced being a first AD?
Oh man, so many. On Band of Robbers, a couple days, one of the actors in key scenes was very late, and it's a really plotted movie. We had 1 million locations, and all of a sudden, if you have somebody missing, half a day or 3/4 of a day, and there's no time. You have all these wonderful actors who are working. Their television show is shooting overnight, and they're all day on set. There's just not a lot of leeway. That was a tough thing to deal with, but we got through it. I worked on, it was a Sci-Fi Channel movie. It was, kind of a really schlocky B movie. And it was a couple years ago, and Los Angeles had horrible flooding. So number one, the movie kind of got delayed almost a week. I couldn't go to one of my best friend's bachelor parties. This sounds like really silly and immature, but you make plans for something for a long time. I've given up a lot to work in this industry, and I told my friend, yeah, I'm I'm going to be there. Like, this is a priority. I want to do this for you. Again, like, grand scheme of things, not a huge deal, but it got pushed. I had to call him and tell him I wasn't going. But the real hard thing was the producer just said, like, we're going to shoot all of this movie regardless of how many hours a day this takes. We know there's no way we can do this in 12 hours a day. So if these days are 18 hours, 20 hours, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to shoot it. You're going to keep going. And if the crew just wants to walk off set, that's fine. But you and the DP, the cinematographer, are just going to keep going and shoot the movie. And it was incredibly challenging locations, you know, kind of like lighting setups that you might have on a $20 million movie, except for, you know, with a 40-person crew shooting over, you know, literally 1,000 yards, like 10 football fields put together. We're trying to light it and then just shoot for an 18-hour day. Just crazy stuff. So physically demanding. And, you know, any of these movies are old kind of TV stars who are used to being treated one way or another. I don't know, the very first movie, A.D.ed, I just I really get along with all crews fairly well, but it was a very kind of inexperienced DP, and the guy kind of tried to have me fired halfway through it, kind of blaming all of his problems on me. And, you know, I don't know, that's it. But all these things are good. Like, they teach you how to, you know, get through sucky times, and they make you a little more resourceful. And I think ADing has been great because I've gotten to see so many people screw up stuff. You know, I work with so many directors who are basically first-time directors, whether it's a commercial or this, or, you know, maybe they've directed something tiny, but this is their first big commercial and they've never been on a set this big. But all of a sudden I'm there and I've done this, you know, 25 other times, not as a director, as an AD, but, you know, I know how it's done. I know the protocol, and I've seen so many other people screw up. And I think, you know, oftentimes I could put my arm around a director's shoulder and just be like, dude, you don't want to do this. Or I saw somebody screw this up 2 months ago. Like, don't make that mistake. That's good.
So when you're, you know, with a first-time director, is there anything specific that you might take him or her to the side, maybe even, you know, obviously even before you're shooting, and maybe say to them, like, you know, hey, you know, if you ever get stuck, or hey, you know, have you thought about this? Or is there any sort of advice you would give to them?
Yes, constantly. First thing is I just try to, you know, in like a really non-offensive way, I try to like explain how a schedule works. And then I just try to remind them, like, listen, nothing's going to happen the first hour of the day because we're going to have to get to this location and the camera's going to have to get built and stuff like that. And then it's going to take about 90 minutes at the end of the day. So already, you know, 2.5 hours of your day are gone. Then lunch, even if we're going to call it a half hour, it's going to take at least 45 minutes. So, you know, they're just before you even know it, 3 hours are gone from your day. So I tell people that. I also tell people, like, come to me with your problems, because, like, that's really my job is to help you with all the logistical crap that you as a director should not be worried about. So oftentimes I find, like, you know, nervous directors or first-time directors, like, they're really worried about, like, you know, why isn't this actor in front of me right now? Or are we going to have the, you know, the silly string for the party scene later? Or, you know, and I see them wanting walkies or trying to talk to, you know, running away from set. And I just, you know, stay here, you know, you deal with the actors, tell me what you need, and I'll bring it to you. But I think people are used to kind of either having to do something or something. They almost don't know how to work with an AD. I keep on telling them, just dump everything on me. Let me know what you need. And, you know, there's some directors who tell me really straightforwardly, like, you know, I've never placed background people before. I don't know how to do that. Will you do all of that for me? Or I'm like, sure. I tell it, like, you know, sometimes just really easy things. Like, do you like working with actors more? Do you like being next to the camera more? Where do you like standing? Tell me how I can, you know, help you out in these situations. So I think that's a start of it, I guess. I'm probably forgetting some things, but I don't know.
No, it sounds good to me. Something I've learned over the years is that the relationship between the director and the cinematographer and the director and the first AD are critical for success. It is just because those two relationships are literally your backbone of the entire production.
Completely. The other thing is, like, I'm not a yeller or a screamer. I don't call people names. I tell producers all the time, like, look, if you just want somebody to watch the clock for you, like, just hire somebody much cheaper, because that's not what I do. Like, I'm there to help make the film with everybody. And, I'm pretty technical, so I can, like, go and I'm oftentimes, like, the DP will be so busy with something, like, I'm talking to the gaffer or key grip about moves that are coming up later in the day, or I'm talking to the camera department about where to repo all of their stuff, so that it's, like, not in shots like 4 hours later on. It is absolutely crucial. And it's like, I don't know, I've so often kind of started a show, and especially, like, the DP will think I'm going to be the bad guy, but it's like, I'm there to help you and work with you. So, like, lean on me, tell me what's on your mind. And, I've oftentimes seen DPs really, by trying to be antagonistic to ADs or even a whole production department, like, ruin a show. Like, no one, they're there kind of, like, deciding before start that everyone's against them, as opposed to saying, like, give me the help I need.
Yeah, you mentioned the AD, may have thought of being the bad guy. Somebody once told me that the AD is sort of like the pit bull, and they have to be the ones that are like, hey, come on, guys, we're losing time. We have to set this up. Do you think that's the right analogy? Is call it an AD?
No, particularly not for me. Like, that's I always tell people, like, I'm the chief communicator. Like, that's what my department is, or my job is basically to communicate between all the departments. Like, I'm on walkie all day, letting everybody know what's going on. Ideally, like, everybody is kept up to date because of me, and everybody has more information than otherwise. And I'm trying to, like, the truth is, like, I don't have a whip. Like, I can't make people go faster. Nobody works better by being yelled at very frequently. The only time I yell is if, like, something's not safe, or occasionally, like, I was doing a commercial early in the year, and we're in a big park, and we had, like, all the departments and equipment scattered over a really big area, and we had maybe, let's say, 18 minutes to get off a couple of shots at the end of the day, because we wanted to time it out to, like, the sun perfectly. So I was like a football coach, like, I'm yelling and I'm telling people, like, let's go, like, get over here, we have to move that. But that's, like, fun. Like, that's, like, the most fun moment for the crew, because it's a 2-day shoot, and everybody wants to get that beautiful shot, and everybody wants to hustle for those 15 minutes. But nobody likes an AD that's yelling all day or just being a jerk.
Yeah, because that's you're getting close to the martini shot, right?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think, like, people who think, like, people who think that ADs should be a quote unquote bulldog, I think probably have the wrong attitude about it. Like, I'm a serious dude, and I say, I tell the truth, and I don't lie to people, and oftentimes I'm pretty, I can be serious or whatever. But no, I don't know. I wish I don't know. As I said, like, chief communicator, I'm just, like, letting everybody know what's going on, I guess. I'm kind of like the bell at the stock exchange. Like, a movie set is kind of like the stock exchange. Everybody wants to know what's going on and what they should be doing, and, like, why they don't have food right now, or what, what's going to be shot later. But I just tell everybody, like, okay, you can do your work. I don't know. I'll think of a better analogy as soon as we get off the phone.
You can call me and be like, Dave, can you put this in?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great. You have all this experience first ADing, which you're now going to use to direct now, and you're actually making a micro budget film right now called Yinz. I pronounced that right?
Yinz.
Okay.
Yinz.
Oh, Yinz. Okay. So yeah, I was just about pronouncing it right. You'll notice something, Jeremy. I tend to butcher some names here and there on the show. So on Yinz, can you tell us a little bit about the film?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love coming of age stories. But I think most of them are pretty boring. And at this point, like, you kind of like just, what the beats of the story are. But like, something like Stand By Me, that's an incredible movie. And I think that's like even like kind of too dirty or racy or something like that to get made. But they're like, after John Hughes, and John Hughes made like awesome movies, there's just such a, beat by beat kind of rubric for how those movies should be. So I kind of want to, make this coming of age story and cross it with a crime story. You kind of rarely see those two worlds cross. And it's really about these like three kids in their isolated hometown, and they're 18 years old, so they think this is the most important time of their life. And there's basically there's a rich Jewish kid, there's a really kind of poor, disadvantaged African-American kid, and there's a working class Italian kid, but they're best friends. However, they all come from like really different backgrounds. And as they kind of like fall into trouble, get themselves into like a really big mess, those, both kind of like more or less secrets that are related to like their kind of family backgrounds start coming out, and they go at each other. And a lot of it is like their kind of ringleader, this like, the rich Jewish kid is he's in love with kind of his guidance counselor at school, and he'll do anything to like cover up whatever they have going on. It's just, it's they get into like some big trouble, but there's like a silliness and lightness, which I kind of want to approach it all with. So I don't know. I think it should be both kind of like fun and have like fun kind of crime movie genre elements in it.
So what were some of your inspirations, for actually, because you wrote the script for this as well, correct?
Yeah, definitely. I think like at the very beginning, certainly like certainly Reservoir Dogs, or like any of those good like dudes stuck in a room together and have to like duke it out movies. But I kept on thinking about Reservoir Dogs, and even though it's kind of like a stage play, it's highly plotted. Like everybody wants something and is suspecting someone of something else, and then they gotta duke it out. I think like Dog Day Afternoon. So it's another kind of thing. Like these guys go in to a bank with a really stupid plan and some guns, and then they are trying to get out of it. Most definitely Fargo, which Fargo is one of my favorite movies. It's like an absolute modern masterpiece. And I want to make something like so kind of honest and authentic and loving to my hometown, in the way kind of like Fargo is to the Midwest and the kind of Minneapolis neighborhood. I don't know. And also The Sopranos. I like did a big rewatch of The Sopranos last year, and it's brilliant. Like there's The Sopranos is really about like the psychology of all of these characters and many different aspects of like the psychology, like family dynamics, like ethnic and racial dynamics, political dynamics, sexual dynamics. And I think that show is about like being a man in America, in the 90s, well, not 90s, like early 2000s. Right. And I think in the psychology of men. And I think that's kind of what I want to do. Like, what's the psychology of teenage boys in America right now, particularly in like my small town? So I don't know, those are some of the major influences, I guess.
Now, you're crowdfunding the movie right now.
Yeah.
So when this is up,
I forgot a major influence. Do you have room for one more?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie, Hard Eight, or Sydney as he likes to call it, giant influence. He probably had $1 million to make it or something like that. I think that nowadays it's a movie that would be made for $100,000. But, man, it's awesome. Just really, really, really kind of influenced by that movie and the relationship of like, 3 or 4 characters in really tight quarters together. That as well. There's kind of like it's a really serious movie, but there's also like a certain amount of playfulness, and it's a movie I watched over and over thinking about my film.
Just while I'm thinking of it, just to mention, if you ever get a chance, check out a movie called Mean Creek.
Oh, I know Mean Creek. I actually know that movie pretty well. I watched it a couple times last year. So there's this production company called Whitewater Films that I AD'd 2 movies for last year, and the first film that they produced, Rick Rosenthal is the name of the producer, has been kind of always insanely nice and helpful and, I don't know, mentorful to me. That was the first little movie he produced. But yeah, I know Mean Creek. Good. It's another movie I looked at.
Oh, good. See, good. Good minds think alike, right?
Exactly.
So now you're crowdfunding Yinz right now, correct?
Right.
So
Yes.
so when this goes up, you'll probably have about 2 weeks left. So when you guys are probably hearing this, it's probably August the 18th, and you probably have 2 weeks left around that time.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you're looking for 30,000.
Right.
At the time of this, you're just about there.
Oh, no, we are there. We have 31. So today, with 21 days ago, that's 3 weeks. We have 31 grand. We made the goal yesterday. It's been, I don't know, it's been amazing and wild and awesome. And I'm insanely insanely happy and grateful with the way it's went.
See that when I looked at it, it was like 29,000. I should have looked at it just before. But so I, of course, the question I want to ask you is, what are some of the things that you've done that have helped you achieve $30,000? In what was that, 10 days or 12 days?
Yeah, something like that. Thereabouts 10 days, 9 days, something like that. I think man, first off, I just studied crowdfunding really hard. It's super dorky. It's like not what I want to be doing with my life. It really is just like another form of internet marketing kind of stuff. But I don't know. I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to get $30,000 from Kickstarter to make this. So on Tim Ferriss's blog, there's a post called Hacking Kickstarter. And some guys who had a water startup wrote an amazing post. And I just studied that inside and out. I studied a bunch of other stuff. And, I just kind of came up with a plan. You want me to just kind of tell the audience what the plan is? And I also wrote a blog post just telling everybody what I did, but happy to kind of explain it.
Well, I'm sorry. You're saying? Would you want to explain it? Are you asking me, or?
Yeah. Do you want me to explain
absolutely,
what I did?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went in and I set a goal. I had a feeling I could get $25,000 or $30,000, and I'm not positive how I came up with that number. I just, looking back, and I can't really remember. I just, it still seems realistic and doable, and I don't know. So I started with that. Then I studied the Kickstarter pages for a couple really good Kickstarter campaigns. I thought Blue Ruins Kickstarter campaign was awesome. That movie is amazing too. So Jeremy Saulnier's film Blue Ruin, watch the movie. It's on Netflix. But if you're going to do a Kickstarter, their goal was 35. So it's okay. I think I could probably do something similar. The guy who runs No Film School, Ryan Koo, I thought his Kickstarter for Man-Child was really good. So I just started with those two. Those is and Ryan Koo has a blog post called How I Raised 125 Grand on Kickstarter on his blog. But Ryan Koo had a big head start because he has a blog with a giant readership. So that's cool. I feel probably me and Jeremy Saulnier were in similar situations, have to raise money, just do it. Don't have this kind of massive built-in audience. So, I basically looked at the copy in video of what they want to do. I also was making a really local film, local to my hometown and local to Pittsburgh. The title of the film is Yinz. Yinz and Yinzers is super Pittsburgh thing. So if you're into Pittsburgh, if you have Pittsburgh pride, which a lot of Pittsburghers do, the title just jumps out at you. So I think that kind of helped, but it's one reason I think this Kickstarter worked. But anyways, so I looked at their copy. If you're going to do a Kickstarter like tomorrow, is like just look at the words on my like page. And number one, take like a month writing your page. Don't do don't be lazy. Don't do like a crappy job. Like write really good description. I would just straight up like copy what I did, copy what Blue Ruin did, copy what Manchild did. Because it's like, the copywriting is like not an art. It's just, you're trying to be honest and let people know what's good about your project and what you can help them, how it's cool for them. Okay. So then after like writing it, made a video. I kept the video pretty basic. It was just me pitching it. Again, I spent like about a month like writing that video and doing a good job of like figuring out how I was going to do it. It still turned out too long. First cut was like 6.5 minutes. We're at like 4:20. I still wish it were maybe like, 3.5 minutes long. So just get your video to 3.5 minutes. Make sure your video is like looks like a professional video. Like if you can't shoot a crappy corporate video that looks nice and has good sound, like nobody should give you a penny on Kickstarter. So do a good job with that. I hired some people to do like some keyframe artwork, some cool storyboards. I took some pictures back home. Like definitely do that stuff. I just, for full disclosure, I probably spent $2,000 like putting together this Kickstarter. So if you're going to do a Kickstarter plan that you're going to spend like $2,000 in advance of it, but that's pretty awesome if you make, 25 or 40 grand afterwards. And then what I did is basically I split up all my email contacts into two groups. One was like my close friends and family, like 150 people. They all know me. Like if I said like, hey guys, you want to come like get drinks with me on Friday? You want to like go out for lunch? Like any of them would be like, sure, yeah, I'm available. Let's do that. So that was like thing number one. Thing number two is like all the people I've kind of like worked with, done jobs with, like, went to their birthday party, whatever. They were in my fraternity. I put them in the other list. And then for all the friends and family, I wrote those people a personalized email. And I said like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Whatever. I wrote them a little message just like, oh, it's good being at your wedding last month. They're like, hey, I know you like supported me a lot this time, but I want you to take a look at whatever. And it's really embarrassing and it's hard to do, but you just kind of, you suck it up and do it. And I said, do these two things the day that the Kickstarter goes live. And thing number one is watch the video. And thing number two is take a look Thing number one is watch the video. Thing number two is share it on Facebook. Nothing else matters. Don't waste your time with like Twitter or whatever. That's like what's going to help more than anything. And just tell people like do it on the first day, because the first day is the most important for a Kickstarter. And I feel very grateful. Like people took it to heart. I think I wrote a pretty clear email and people were like knew what I needed them to do. And I never once said like, give me your money or like, hey, now's your time to pony up, because that just sucks and is selfish and no one owes me anything. So I don't know. The other piece of advice is, get written up by bloggers. That's a lot of hard work, but I spent, my month of prep getting ready for that. And the other thing is just make your reward super clear. Like you don't need a million different levels. Like you just need the key one is like to pre-buy the movie. That's $25. That's by far and away our most popular. I still wish I don't even have that many rewards levels. Maybe I have 6 or something like that, or 8. I maybe looking back and I could have like 4. And then, that's it. That's all the advice.
Yeah, my biggest mistake was I would send out emails just saying, "Hey, I need money," or that was a joke, by the way. It came out completely. I was setting that up for a joke, Jeremy, and it came out completely wrong. So, but no, I agree with you. You definitely have to have pre-prep time. Like it's almost like pre-production. And you have to organize all of this stuff and find your friends, your family, and your associates, And then, of course, putting that all in together and putting this in an Excel spreadsheet and, organizing this and sending out emails and, one of the biggest surprises, because when I crowdfunded, Jeremy, I used the last time I did it was 2010 for my TV pilot, and back then nobody knew what crowdfunding was except for a very small few people. Kickstarter wasn't even around then. So what happened was I used Indiegogo, and but nowadays, anybody who says, a crowdfunding campaign, they also use hey, I'm just going to kickstart mine. It's, you know what I mean? Like that lingo has just found its way into the zeitgeist. And, now all my friends, they all know about Kickstarter. In fact, I don't think there's anybody anymore who doesn't even know what Kickstarter is. You know what? Actually, we ran into the problem where a bunch of people, honestly, it's tend to be people like over the age of 50 in the Midwest who don't know what like Kickstarter is. So that's not, I don't know. Not trying to be bigoted or like not PC or something like that, but it's just the truth. Like a lot of my girlfriend's older family or family friends had never heard of Kickstarter. But yeah, I don't know. I like Kickstarter. I made the choice to go with Kickstarter just because it's like people know it. It's like Xerox or Kleenex or, something like that. Like people just understand the word, I think, a little bit better. But the other thing I did, the advice my best friend, Fred Parada, who's like a internet marketing genius who I'm lucky to know, told me was like send an email the week before the campaign letting everybody know that you're going to start this campaign the following week. And, I did that. I think that helped. And I don't know. I think the other cool side effect of Kickstarter is it's like a PR campaign. It's a PR campaign, basically. So people are, you're blasting things out. People are sharing things. And, because of that, like, whatever, some investors have kind of like gotten in touch, or people are like, hey, I really like what you're doing, or kind of crew members that I would have never talked to otherwise were kind of like all about it. So it's a good, helpful thing to do, I think. One thing that Kickstarter does very well is their Kickstarter app. So is basically, let's just say this. Let's say, you're on Kickstarter, I'm on Kickstarter. I can follow you on Kickstarter just via the site. So when you launch a crowdfunding campaign, I would get a notification about that.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have gotten notifications from people who, like friends of mine, who started campaigns, and I either missed their email, or I missed their tweets, or I missed their Facebooks, and suddenly I'm like, oh, look at this. John is starting a Kickstarter. All right, so I just click a button, it takes me right to their page, and I can scroll through, and I actually was the first person that donated.
Oh, that's super cool. That is cool. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, and I think that's something Kickstarter has done very well with. I'm hoping, to launch my own crowdfunding campaign by the end of the year.
Cool.
We'll see how that works. But, because again, I haven't done it in 5 years. So,
would you, what Kickstarter thing do you think you would, or what crowdfunding platform would you use?
Oh,
just out of Kickstarter, cool.
I've done Indiegogo about 3 times, and yes, everybody, I know I call it Indiegogo.
Huh.
I don't know. It's just a force of habit now. Sometimes I get emails like, Dave, you get it Indiegogo and it's just Indiegogo? Yeah, I got it, people. But yeah, I would definitely use I would definitely use Kickstarter. And a friend of mine actually just broke the record for Seed and Spark.
Oh, cool. What film?
Let me see. I know it's very terrible that I don't know the name of it.
Don't worry.
But I will post that in the show notes, everybody. It's actually a web series. It's season 2. The friend of mine who is their campaign manager is Lucas McNeely. Lucas has actually been on the show before, and he actually just broke the record for Seed and Spark with this campaign. I think it's called. I know this is terrible, but I actually forget the name. But I'm going to post it in the show notes.
No, don't worry.
But speaking of which, Jeremy, you actually wrote that great article for Jason Brubaker's site, and that's how one of the reasons that we got introduced to each other, And Jason said that has just gotten some amazing traction because that is the thing now is everybody wants to sort of know. I don't want to say hack Kickstarter, but everyone wants to know what is the proper way to do this so that we don't fall flat on our faces.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly super surprised with how well it went. My dream goal was to get to like $10,000 in 2 days, and we got over $20,000 in 2 days. But man, the advice I would give is just honestly take a month to prepare and just do kind of what I did. I wish I'd lined up more blog post still. I don't know. I think maybe some bloggers don't want to write about something that's a Kickstarter. Had a couple people kind of disappear on me in that world. I don't know, just I don't know. It's like anything else in life. Be a good dude. Because if you're, if you're a good dude, I think people are a little bit more willing to help out. And just, I also think pitch it this is true, but pitch it like this. We're pre-selling you the movie. We're not looking for a handout. If you give us $25, you will get to own the movie. And I think people respect that.
Yeah, very true. And especially the be a good dude part that's imperative. Because I have known people who've been a little verbose on Twitter, and they sort of wonder why they're not getting the crowdfunding love.
Huh.
It's all cyclical. It's all tied in together. I've seen it time and time again. I've also seen people who've badmouthed Kickstarter, Jeremy, and then they go racing to it, and they're like, "Hey, we've always loved this." And I've actually seen a couple people call them out on it, which, I don't mind. I don't. If you were to say hey, Kickstarter is not for me or crowdfunding is not for me, whatever, and I've had people on the show who've said that. They said they don't want to do crowdfunding at all for whatever reason. But the thing is, they don't badmouth it. They said, hey, whoever wants to do it, we hope them all the best. The people that get on my nerves are the people who badmouth it and then all of a sudden go, hey, we actually need to use crowdfunding now. You know what I mean? And it's just people will call you out on that because I've noticed that now too.
And I think I never want to do a crowdfunding campaign because it's hard work and it's embarrassing and it takes a lot of time. But you just it's probably something you kind of have to do. It's the truth. You just got to it's a part of it. These days, I also think more people find out about your movie if you do a long time in advance if you do a Kickstarter as opposed to if you don't. It's probably helpful. I feel like I'm on some horrible panel at a film festival saying build buzz, but it's true. You're telling people about your movie in a way you wouldn't otherwise.
No, I completely understand what you're saying, and but yeah, you do have to constantly. Crowdfunding's a full-time job, and you have to constantly go out there and engage, and always be talking about your your film or your project, whatever it might be. I think that gets lost a lot, Jeremy, because I think a lot of people get lost in seeing final numbers, and they say, "Holy crap! I can do I could get X amount of dollars," and they don't realize the amount of work and relationships and everything else that went into that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I also think I have some kind of an advantage because I've been I work in the film industry and I go from show to show to show, and every show I meet another 50 people. So maybe I know more people or know more people that kind of get the filmmaking game than otherwise. But I mean, if you're a dude that just left working on Wall Street and you know a lot of people from work and stuff like that, you're in a whole hell of a lot better position than me about to do a Kickstarter. Most of my friends are people that live in the east side of Los Angeles making $35,000 a year working on film sets. These aren't people that are going to put thousands of dollars towards my movie.
Yeah, and also you're going to be filming back in Western PA, and again, like you were saying, you built up those relationships and made sure that they knew that they were going to be filming around this area. And I wanted to ask too about your film. Did you actually cast based upon Western PA, or did you cast both in LA and Western PA?
So my girlfriend Haley Hansard is one of the characters. She plays Mindy Szymanski, and she was cast because we're making the movie together, and she's right for the part, and I could write the part for her. And she's cast out of LA, and she's definitely not. She has nothing to do with Western PA. I think I'm going to end up casting about half the movie out of LA/New York. Like I'll have an LA based casting director, and probably half the movie or so based out of the Pittsburgh area. But I met with the casting directors in Pittsburgh, had good talks with both of them, and both of them were like really honest and like, this is, you can count on our talent for these kind of roles, but not for these kind of roles. Or like, just really honestly, like, there aren't a lot of like black actors who can do this role, but maybe this role. It's just, it's a small place and not as many actors. And, I filmed there 2 roles for African Americans, and the sad truth is like black actors have a hard time finding like good roles. Like it's a crappy nature of the business right now. So it's like I'll be able to get awesomely talented actors from the Los Angeles area for those kind of roles. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not all cast, though. Just one character's cast, and reached out to another guy for something else, but not going to say who that is. But just an actor I saw kind of in a kind of an obscure movie a couple years ago and loved him and reached out.
And see, that's awesome to be able to do, Jeremy, is I do that as well. Where you see an actor somewhere and you make a mental note and you're saying, man, I'd love to work with that guy, someday. And then you finally get the chance to, and it's absolutely amazing.
Oh man, I'm really obsessive about that. I keep like a notebook of every actor I like, every actor I've ever auditioned. Headshot. It's really important. Like, you can have a good script, and if you cast it wrong, the project is just screwed before you shoot a single shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jeremy, we've been talking for about an hour now. So in closing, is there anything that you wanted, any final thoughts, anything else you wanted to add to sort of put a period to this conversation?
Yeah, I think like maybe the one thing I'd say is, I went to film school. I consider myself a director. I always want to, I want to make movies. Like I don't want to AD for life. I don't want to direct commercials. And I feel like there are a lot of people in my position, you kind of have this feeling like, oh, why isn't nobody giving me $3 million to make a movie, or my scripts are good or whatever. Just you got to figure out a way to make something on your own. And part of the challenge is just kind of like, do you have that certain like whatever, that kind of Daniel Plainview drive inside you to go do it, but just go do it. There's nothing special about me. Like I'm just I'm a dude that likes movies, that works on set, that's done, that's worked hard to put myself in a position where I know how to make movies, but there's thousands of other people like me. So kind of, go do it.
Very cool, Jeremy. Where can people find you out online?
I'm at jeremymcohen.com, twitter.com/JeremyMCohen. I'm Jeremy M. Cohen on Instagram. I try to keep that pretty familiar, or pretty similar to everywhere. Jeremy Michael Cohen. Google me, all that stuff will come up. But jeremymcohen.com and at Jeremy M. Cohen on social media.
And everyone, I will also link to all that stuff in the show notes. So if you want, you can actually, for those of you who subscribe through Podbean, I'm just going to link to all that stuff in the show notes. It's very, very simple to do that. I don't know if iTunes is actually populating that anymore, but if they are, the links will be there. So it's for me, everybody, it's at DaveBullis.com. For Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Joey Michael Cohen, thank you very much for coming on the show, sir. And I wish you luck with shooting Yinz. I mean, the crowdfunding campaign is already funded, so I wish you a lot of luck in the actual filming of the project.
No, that's Dave. Thank you so much. If you've listened to this, check out the Kickstarter page. Like, I think gives a really, I don't know. I like to think gives a good description of what Yinz is all about. And I don't know. Stay in touch. Tweet at me, guys. Dave, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you, dude.
Oh, anytime, buddy. And take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.